Hello and welcome to Norwood Digest, NPA TV's news magazine show. We've got a great show and we're going to start it right off with Tony Mazzucco, the new town manager of Norwood. You've been here, maybe 40 days, 50 days?
About that, just under 2 months.
All right, well, welcome to Norwood Digest and welcome to Norwood.
Thank you. Happy to be here on the show and happy to be here in Norwood.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up.
Sure. So I grew up not too far down the road, the town of Randolph. I was actually born in the city of Boston, grew up in Randolph. Lived most of my life in Randolph up until about 10 years ago. I'm a proud graduate of the Randolph public school system. I attended Bridgewater State for both my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree. I have a bachelor's in political science and a master's degree in public administration. And I've spent some time in the private sector working for the company National Amusements, which is actually a Norwood-based company. Their corporate office is based right here on University Ave. After working for them for a while, I went back to school, went to get my master's degree. I always knew I wanted to get into public service, and I've worked for cities and towns throughout New England, in Vermont, and in Maine, and in Western Mass most recently. And now I've sort of come home to Norwood, where I'm looking to spend the rest of my municipal management career.
So one of the interesting places, at least to me, was Caribou, Maine.
Way up north along the Canadian border.
What kind of, how much population did you have there?
So Caribou had about 8,200 people.
Wow, I thought I'm surprised it's that big.
Yeah, it's a smaller community compared in Massachusetts, but actually mid-sized community for the state of Maine. The county that Caribou was in, Aroostook County, is about the size of New Jersey with only 70,000 people in it. So a lot of land area. Caribou, by comparison, in land size is 80 square miles. So we're about 10 square miles here in Norwood and fully built out. Caribou is a community that was 80 square miles. Brutal, brutal winters. Beautiful summers, but you pay for it all winter long. But I had a great time up there, great people. And
so I was thinking when I was coming up here, because we had a snow rain event, and I'm like, well, this must be nothing for someone who spent some time in Caribou.
You know, when you're up in northern Maine, it's always referred to as the county, Aroostook County. Less than 6 inches, and no one even talks about it. So if there's going to be 4 or 5 inches of snow, it's not even a point of discussion. Between 6 inches and a foot up there, somebody will mention that it's snowing, and nobody really is concerned until it gets over a foot, because it starts snowing sometimes in October up there, and you'll still get a good couple storms as late as April. And usually by late May, most of the snow is finally melted up there.
So immediately prior to coming to Norwood, you were in Massachusetts, out in Adams.
Way out in Western Mass. You know, growing up in Randolph, I used to think that Worcester was Western Mass. And I think when you grow up in this part of the state, most of us think of Worcester as Western Mass. And then you get a little older and you realize, well, you got the Springfield area, the Amherst, Northampton area, the Pioneer Valley, one of the most beautiful parts of the state. That's far Western Mass. And when I came to work in Adams, I realized that there's even a Western Mass beyond that. Yeah. Most people think of it as New York, and for all intents and purposes it is, but technically Massachusetts. So I was out in Adams, which is a town of about 8,500 people, so similar in size to Caribou. And it's right at the base of Mount Greylock, the highest mountain in Massachusetts. Absolutely beautiful community, right in the mountains, right in a little valley in between the Berkshires and part of the Berkshire Range and the Hoosick Range, and just a beautiful town out in northern Berkshire County. Former industrial town, so a post-mill town like Norwood. Similar form of government. We had a selectman administrator town meeting form of government out there, so a lot of similarities in how it's structured between Norwood and Adams, but a beautiful, beautiful part of the state. If you've never been out there, and I regret until I was working out in Adams, I didn't spend much time out in the Berkshires. I think growing up here, you went on vacation, you went to a lake in New Hampshire, you went to the beaches in Maine, or you went to the Cape. Nobody really went out to the Berkshires, but if you've never been out there, I encourage you to go out there.
It's beautiful. You know, my job takes me all over the state, and I love going out to Mount Greylock. Of course, being a wizard, that's where I graduated from, the wizarding school. Was it Gyllenhaal? I'm trying to remember.
Ilvermorny. So, funny story, for those who don't know, if you're a fan of the Harry Potter series, J.K. Rowling announced that the American version of Hogwarts is located at the top of Mount Greylock, which is in Adams, Massachusetts. And myself being a huge Harry Potter fan, when the news sort of broke, I'm running around Town Hall in Adams and telling everyone, guys, relax, relax, but J.K. Rowling just announced that the American Hogwarts is located there. And by the time I got to the third or fourth office, somebody said, Tony, nobody's overreacting to this except you. But being a big Harry Potter fan, I particularly enjoyed that. And we've had some fun over the last few years with that. A lot of visitors to the mountain for it, and it's been quite a lot of fun.
Yeah. When we did the groundbreaking for the Mount Greylock Regional High School, right over my shoulder was Mount Greylock, and I made some comment about, what a magical place this was. I always knew it was, but now that I know that's there, and you're right, it was like crickets. Nobody but me cared about it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, we had school cancellations last year when I was out in Adams, and I was waiting for a day where I could go on the town's Facebook page and announce all the schools that were closed for snow and be able to put Ilvermorny right on there as well. I enjoyed that quite a bit. And the town of Williamstown, which is right near Adams, actually has a picture of Mount Greylock in its sort of in their logo for the town. And the peak of Mount Greylock is actually in Adams, Massachusetts. So whenever I would visit my colleague in Williamstown, we'd have a meeting, I'd always say, you know, Jason, I love the fact that you got a picture of Adams right in your town logo.
Great.
And they didn't like to think of it that way,
No.
but
So now you're in Norwood. And you only been here a short while, but what's the biggest surprise so far?
you know, I don't know if there's been a biggest surprise, but maybe the biggest pleasant surprise I found in Norwood is how committed everyone is to the community. There's a sense of community here in Norwood. People care about the town. They enjoy living here. They're proud of Norwood. And that sense of community pride, and it's well-founded, you don't have that in every community. A lot of towns have seen a lot of turnover. They've seen a lot of change in their population. People forget what it means to be civic-minded and to care about the community. And you don't have that. You do have that in Norwood, where you don't have it in a lot of other places. So for me, for somebody who grew up caring about local government and being involved in town government, to know that there's so many people in Norwood who truly care about the town and care about the community, for me, it makes it a perfect fit. That's probably the thing I enjoy the most about Norwood, especially coming to work every day. I mean, town employees and town staff, they care about the town, they care about doing well, they care about the people that we serve. And you don't have that everywhere, so it's a very special thing to me, at least about Norwood.
So you came, you arrived, and they immediately threw a $13 million problem at you, right? With the purchase of the Forbes.
It's how it often happens in a lot of town government. It's, hey, Tony, guess what? Now we just spent $13 million on a 27-acre parcel of land with a mansion on it, and why don't you help us figure out what to do with it? So the selectmen have appointed a task force that's going to go through a process of taking public input. And incidentally, anyone out there, if you have any thoughts or suggestions with the Forbes property, email the selectmen, email their office, email me or my office. We're compiling all of that data. There's going to be some public forums about what can we do with it, what do we want to do with it, how do we want to redevelopment. Once those get announced, we'll let everyone know. By all means, go to those. But if you can't, send a letter, send a call, pop in the office and just say, hey, this is an idea I had, or this is what I'd like to see there. We're going to compile all that together and come back with some suggestions on how we can redevelop the property and how we can put it to the best use for the community.
Yeah, it's really once in a lifetime opportunity here.
Absolutely, and I always caution people, when you build something, it's going to be there for a couple of generations. So we've got this 27-acre parcel. What does the community do with it? Do we just sell it to a developer? Do we preserve the mansion? Do we find a business use for the mansion? How do we create some open space? Do we do housing? If so, what kind of housing? If we allow commercial development, what kind of commercial development do we want to see? So a lot of questions to be asked, and town meeting will have to make some decisions down the road. But right now, I think what we want to do is just get everyone's opinion. Throw all the ideas out there, as crazy as they may sound, and those will start to get whittled down into what's practical and what's possible.
So when you came here, is there something besides this issue that you said, you know, I really want to get involved in this and fix this or do this?
So one of the things that I've been working on with some of my colleagues throughout the Commonwealth is civics education, and I was pleasantly surprised to find out that not only does Norwood have a civics class at the high school, but that we do the Student Government Day here at Town Hall. And a lot of communities have stopped doing this. And I was saying this recently, you would be surprised. There are some towns in Massachusetts that do zero civics education. There is not a single civics class. There are some colleagues of mine, managers in other towns, who have asked their superintendents for a day or two to talk about local government, to talk about town government. And they've said, nope, we can't find it in the schedule here. Wow. Norwood is the complete reverse. And for me, that's sort of been one of the things I've enjoyed quite a bit, and something I intend to continue to push and to promote, is that civic education is important, not just at the local level. Obviously, that's my interest as a town manager, but making sure that we're getting younger people involved in government at all levels and understanding the value of community and civic education and being civic-minded. We've sort of had to move away from that in this country, of people being civic-minded and saying, at the end of the day, we can agree to disagree. Maybe we want to do A or do B, but your community is where you live, it's where you work, and that's important. And the services in your community are important. So I'm very happy with what Norwood does, and I'm looking forward to being involved with that and contributing to that as well.
Now, John Carroll was your predecessor. Have you had much interaction with him?
Oh, absolutely. Quite a few. We met quite a few times in between John leaving and my starting, and we've spoken quite a few times since. One of the questions I keep getting is, everyone says, gee, you know, big shoes to fill, Tony. How do you feel after following somebody after 39 years? And while it's a challenge, on the other hand, it's a great benefit to me, too. John was here for 39 years, and he did a lot of great things here. So it's much easier to follow a good success story than it is to follow some communities have a lot of turnover in their administration, and that's tough. So for me, I'm following a 39-year class act that did a lot of great things for the town. Makes my job that much easier.
So when I interviewed him, you know, before he left, I asked him if there was one thing that he wished he could have done, and he surprisingly he said there was, because I figured he accomplished everything, you know. But it was I forget where he was. It was either in San Antonio or somewhere in California. And he was at this place, and there was music playing out in the air. And he said, I always would love to try to figure out how to get the music playing in downtown Norwood. So I throw that to you as a unfinished business.
John and I have already had a conversation about that. I'd love to do it. I mean, imagine if you're walking around the holiday season, and throughout downtown and throughout the Common, you have some Christmas and holiday music being piped in. the summer, it's a warm night, you're out walking downtown, walking throughout the Common in Norwood Center, and you can hear light music playing. I'd love to see if we could bring some live music to the Common, not to compete with the concerts on the Common that we do, but small acoustic acts in the summer, and over time build in that sound system so you can pipe some of that music and other music. Just create a place that people want to go. So on a Thursday or Friday night, you say, let's go down and just spend some time there. Hopefully they'll shop at the restaurants and the stores and everything too, but really enhance it as a center for the community. But I think John was spot on with getting a sound system downtown. Something I'd love to do and something I'd love to find a way to make sure we can get done.
Good, great. Well, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, my pleasure, anytime.
And that's what I was going to say to you. Anytime that you want to get a message out, feel free to call us. We're always looking for guests. You're doing me a favor if you come on. I'm not doing you the favor. So that, you're welcome to come on anytime. And best of luck.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right. Well, now we're going to have the First Steps Infant Book Program. The town of Norwood prides itself on the partnerships that the town has formed with its local businesses. Over the last 5 years, the Norwood Hospital Small Miracles Maternity Unit has teamed up with the Morrill Memorial Library's First Steps Reading Program to encourage new parents to read to newborn children. For more on this, we go to Nancy Ling.